Alright everyone, we start off today laughing about Michael Avenatti. Of course, now, his asshole gets expanded in prison. He'll be there for 2.5 years specifically for extortion. It's usually a bad idea to try to do that when you're a lawyer. I guess the basic con job was basically fund me, fucking give me money, or else I raise legal problems for you. It's like the most obvious mistake he could make. I guess he was doing that thing that some people do where they get high on their own farts. Essentially, they become like really famous and rich and stuff, and then they think, well, it can't happen to me. I can fuck around all I want. Hey, it's okay. I'm a rapper, so I'm allowed to, assault random women sexually, and I won't get in trouble because I'm a rapper. I'm just living the life, and they end up in prison or something. And then people riot because, of course, they didn't do anything wrong, and it's just profiling. Anyway, keep in mind, this actually comes many months after he already got screwed over by Stormy Daniels, who filed suit against him, kicked him out as lawyer for misrepresenting her statements and claims, actually, at one point. He was already on the skids, and this is a person who the Democrats held up on a pedestal and basically treated like the anti-Trump hero of the moment. He's gonna slay the evil Trumpanzee. He's going to put on his knight in shining armor suit and flowers and stuff everywhere and garlands, and he'll take his mighty silver sword and cut down the evil Trumpanzee troll. And of course, that never happened. Avenatti goes to prison. Trump won't, by the way. Leftoid grifters are still claiming that he's somehow going to be touched by the Trump business case involving his CFO without the benefit of any legal knowledge related to how that would work. CFO is in charge of the money. It won't go any further because Trump probably wasn't even aware of what the fuck was going on. He gets a brief statement at the very end of the fiscal year under the arrangement he had with his kids. Basically, he was leaving the business to them, at least temporarily. That's all he would have gotten. Avenatti, meanwhile, is fucked. It's funny because this keeps happening over and over again. You see, there could be a legal case still against Andy Cuomo. Keep in mind, he lied flat out to the people of New York regarding the number of elderly deaths. He caused them through mismanagement. He's got like 10 Me Too claims against him. He could be fucked and basically just be fucked in waiting at the moment because everything in the courts is so much slower. Keep in mind, before we chuckle further, especially about the Democrats' reaction and treatment of Avenatti, keep in mind, links down below in a pinned comment, 4 links to other video hosting sites that I use. I make 4 videos every day, only 2 get on YouTube. Normally the other ones, they're either spicy topics that YouTube doesn't allow you to talk about or have certain opinions on. Their algorithms, their bots will screw you in the ass. YouTube does that to its creators all day now. Or it's because I just make a lot of videos and I want to incentivize people to use free speech platforms. Now, the best part about this is watching the massive fall from grace of an egotist. It's sort of like Fredo or some of these people. Massive egotist. He used to sign all of his tweets that were deliberately meant to be antagonistic and sort of, it's a tough guy persona, which is why he would say Basta at the end of each tweet like he's a mafioso. Fredo did this. He's like, oh, you called me Fredo. That's basically a slur. Man, I'd punch you if you said it. It's like, you sound like Joe Biden, a little pussy. I'm going to take you behind the woodshed. I'm going to challenge you to a push-up contest. Yeah, I'm pushing 80 years old and broke my foot 3 times in the last year, but I'm in peak physical condition. Fucker thinks it's 1980. Or 75, actually, economically. Unfortunately, you look at these people, and this happens over and over. This sort of reminds me of Fredo, only that's in a non-legal sense. You remember when he was grandstanding and saying, well, I tested positive for COVID, so I'm doing my patriotic duty and sitting in my basement for the next 2 weeks. And then several days before that period ended, he left his basement to go on a jog. He gets confronted by someone on a bicycle, is like, hey, aren't you supposed to be in quarantine? You're Fredo, right? And he's like yelling at the dude, pretending that this biker is doing something wrong by pointing out that the fucker is grandstanding. Andy Cuomo does this. It seems very common among the mafia Democrats. The Clintons do this. You see the sort of tough guy schmoozing. It's sort of like a post-Lyndon Baines Johnson approach. Physically, it's you get up close to people, physical schmoozing. Biden does this a lot. Clinton used to do this constantly. Lyndon Baines Johnson, for those that didn't study, maybe U.S. history on a higher level, he was known to be physically imposing. Dude was 6'3", if I remember correctly. And he would lean in close to reporters, staffers, governors, senators, everyone else, his wife, other women. He'd lean in close, very firm handshake, long handshake, a lot of eye contact. He made dick jokes about the size of his Johnson, quite literally. In fact, I think that might actually be where that particular term comes from, the use of Johnson as slang for the manhood. Doesn't it come from LBJ? It could predate him, but it fits anyway, so I'm just going to go with that even if it's mythology. And Avenatti tries to do the same. What he didn't realize is that fundamentally he was 15 minutes of fame. It was just predicated, so many careers were made and largely lost, just predicated on being anti-Trump. So you've got Kathy Griffin, okay, failed, what is she? I don't even know, comedian, artist, TV host? I don't even know what the fuck she does. Her 15 minutes of fame was holding up a severed head, pretending that it was art, and it's like Trump's head dripping with blood and stuff. She gets owned over this. Has to profusely apologize, which was actually rare for the leftoids to insist that something had gone too far in regards to Trump. I mean, literally, over the course of his presidency, if you look at political cartoons, they devolve, like they evolve in reverse, towards depicting him as basically a big round ball with a baby face and a poopy diaper. And that's not a hyperbolic exaggeration. That's what happened. Initially, there was some cartoonistry going on. Then pretty soon, it's like, oh, I can do this in paint in 5 minutes. Anyway, these people were one-trick ponies. Again, and some of these people, by the way, were like, the rhinos, like Mitt Romney. Who gives a fucking shit about Mitt Romney? The only reason that he's even ever in the news is again, prefaced on being anti-Trump. Otherwise, he's just a standard rhino. A standard so-called moderate, which is to say complete sellout to far leftism. That's the only thing he's never. Liz Cheney. Who gave a fuck about Liz Cheney other than the context of her being Dick Cheney's, daughter or niece or some shit like that, which isn't a good thing, by the way. It makes her uniquely unqualified and should be ineligible to ever be in fucking politics again. Anyone who's even 3 generations removed from the Bushes and Cheneys should be banned from public office forever and stripped of all their worldly belongings and live under a goddamn bridge. Exile them to Madagascar, something like that. Pay the government of Madagascar a couple $1 million just to keep these people in a cage over there in their island so that they can stop troubling us here and grifting and starting wars. Anyway, who would have known much about her except that she flipped to vote for impeachment? Nobody. Nobody cares outside of her very limited constituency, 1 congressional district, which happens to be also a state. Nobody else knows. I didn't know who Liz Cheney was. I mean, I'd heard the name, so, Dick Cheney's offspring or whatever. Okay. But you couldn't tell me, I couldn't tell you what she believed in or anything. Didn't care. It didn't even matter. And I have to analyze politics for a living, keeping that in mind. Avenatti is very similar. Michael Avenatti, the only reason people knew who he was is that he grifted his way into being Stormy Daniels' lawyer. And Stormy Daniels was a porn star, and Trump had sex with her, and then paid her a bunch of money, and supposedly this was a major political scandal even though he wasn't in office when it happened. Well, it's not a scandal. The president didn't cheat on his wife. Trump, the businessman, cheated on his wife. But that has nothing to do with his politics. Avenatti attempted to ride the gravy train, and now he's ended up burying his career, which, at the very least, he was a lawyer with a notable name. Why the fuck would you go out of your way to break the law and extort a business knowing that you can go to prison for several years for it? It shows that the dude is a freak of nature and dumb. Keep in mind, again, this is the important part for public policy. The Democratic Party looked at this man, despite knowing, they had to have known that he was sleazy. The way he acted, the way he presented himself, he's a sleazy lawyer, now former lawyer, I believe. They knew this, and yet they still held him up on a pedestal. Their strategic intelligence is so low that they bet on him to be the one that would take Trump down over a scandal that the public never gave a shit about. It was just like the Pissgate thing or the N-word tape that doesn't exist that Tom Arnold keeps rambling about sporadically even now. It was like this. It couldn't have led to the end of his presidency because it was before his presidency. It's like when they looked into Manafort and they found that there was money laundering going on there. They swore up and down, well, this time Trump's he's going to have to bite the bullet and resign or something because he's clearly going to be gone. But it happened back in the mid-2000s. Bush was president. Obama wasn't even president yet. Has nothing to do with Trump or his campaign. Manafort was only in there for a couple of months before getting shoved out anyway. I thought this was hilarious. Time and time again, for years this happened, both to candidate and President Trump. ultimately, in the end, you had to fortify some elections in order to get rid of the dude. He's probably going to come roaring back in 24 anyway, and I hope that he does, and it'd be hilarious if he did. That's about all. Peace out.